Que lo que mi gente, welcome to the Monoplaza F1 podcast. As always, I'm your host, Emi Bertre. And with us today, hey, I always have the most illustrious guest on the show. Today, we have Rowdy Vince Duran, ESPN columnist for Latin American, North American region, and the founder of Entrando Pits podcast in Dominican Republic, super popular. Vince, hey man, thanks for joining. Hey. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just laughing because you said like you have the most illustrious guest, and I'm like, whoa.
Okay, I do have the most illustrious guest.
You're overselling me, but that's okay. I'm glad to be here. No.
Well, thank you for joining us. Vince, we are going to cover a lot of topics today. The first one, really, let's just get the ball rolling. I want to know, I'm not going to say a Ferrari fan, as a Charles Leclerc fan, what was your impression of the Italian GP?
Well, actually, it was a good surprise, like in the sense that I wasn't expecting a Charles Leclerc win. Actually, my wife was with us. We had this viewing party outside of the city we live in, and we were with a lot of friends and guests, and like 15 laps to go, I'm like, he can win this crap. And then I've left the room and I got on my computer. I was checking the telemetry and the timing, and when Oscar Piastri went in for his second pit stop, I was scared because the McLarens have a freaking rhythm, and then
it's a rocket.
I was like, shit, it's 17 seconds, maybe Carlos can do something. And then actually Piastri got out of the box in front of Lando but behind Sainz, and they were like 13 14 seconds. At least Sainz got like 2 laps trying to hold off Oscar, because I knew Charles had no tires at all. And
None at all.
And if you see in the last couple of seasons, you know that Ferrari has many issues with tire deck. And
absolutely, yep.
You also know that my boy Leclerc, he has some issues with the mindset and stuff. So I was really scared. Actually, I was checking my heartbeat and on the watch.
Oh, it was up? Your heart was racing pretty fast?
Oh, of course, my brother. Because I told my friends, like, if Leclerc wins in Monza, I'm done for the season. Because I wasn't expecting a win in Monaco. We got that. And then
absolutely.
But my favorite Leclerc win was in Monza 2019.
Yep.
So I was like,
a good race. Yes.
I'm on Friday telling Medrano, I'm like, yo, can you imagine if Leclerc wins on Sunday? And then actually to be there, I mean, not in the racetrack, but it was I can say that it was one of the happiest moments I've had while watching a Formula One race.
Okay, so I'm gonna put you on you loved the race. It was an exciting race, and the result was amazing. Maybe not an exciting race, but I'm saying the result of the race. No?
Yeah, I love the result, but the race was not that interesting actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hold on. No. Wait. Why was the race not interesting? That actually is interesting to me, because for me, here's why I'm asking. For me, Silverstone, I feel the same way about you. I know this is Monza. I'm talking about Silverstone right now. When Lewis Hamilton won Silverstone, I was good for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So similar to you, I'm like, he was not supposed to win. McLaren once again messed up the strategy. So when Lewis won, I was crying just as much as Lewis was, right?
We were all crying that day.
So going back to Monza, why did you not feel like the race was exciting? Because I felt like it had a lot of drama. And honestly, watching Leclerc do what he did with those tires on that one-stop strategy made it exciting for me. And I don't know if it was probably the same reason for you. Like, oh, God, I hope he hangs on and wins.
Oh, no, yeah. But that's just one situation on track. When you have a 20 well, not 20 because Tsunoda DNF'd, but you have other 18 drivers that are going around this circuit, and nobody other than Colapinto that got like six places. He went up.
Yeah, 6 overtakes. Yep.
6 overtakes, and but other than that, you didn't have any much action. Maybe in the first lap when Piastri did his Doña Envidiosa on Lando for the 100th time, but other than that, actually, if you go back and see the race, you would see that it was McLaren's fault that Ferrari got the chance. So
absolutely, yes. So, okay, all right, we're gonna talk about that in a second. I'll give you quickly. So my impression of the race, I assumed that McLaren was just going to run away. Piastri and Lando were just going to be 23 seconds, 40 seconds, 2 days ahead of everybody.
Yep.
But the person I don't have faith in is Lando Norris, right? So I assume if you watch interviews, they asked Oscar Piastri, "Hey, what are your thoughts? Like, are you going to let Lando?" No, Oscar wanted to win, right? And I know that you know this, but I just, again, because I'm a Lando Norris hater, want to remind everybody, Lando Norris has a 0% conversion rate on pole. So I assumed that Max Verstappen or Oscar Piastri was going to pass Lando before the first turn. It didn't necessarily happen. It happened on turn 4. But for me, like, that made the race like spicy, like good from the beginning for me, because then I'm like, okay, well, what's McLaren going to do? Like, are they going to make them like swap? And when they didn't, I was very much like, okay, I guess they don't want to win a World Driver Championship. I guess they don't really care about whatever. And I thought that team orders would have happened, but like it didn't happen. But we'll touch on that in a second. I would say, like, overall, like for you, the result was great, but you're saying the race itself,
Yeah, because there's the thing. There's Vince, the fan, and then there's Vince, the analyst. And
understood.
I know Leclerc won. I'm happy as hell, but
Of course.
the race itself was not a good. It was not like Silverstone. In Silverstone, you had a lot of different situations.
Sure.
Hungary too. You had certain situations with Lando and Piastri, Max and Lewis, but here you didn't have any of that. So yeah, like from 1 to 10, I would give it like a 7 because because Ferrari won at home. But
sure, yeah, of course. But hey, 70 is a C, so it's still passing.
Yeah, but you know.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit then about. So going into the race, we understood that McLaren obviously needs to capitalize, right?
Yeah.
Their biggest competitor up to this point has been Red Bull. Coming into the race, Red Bull had not won 5 races out of the previous 5, right?
Yeah.
I am not going to pretend like I know what the regulations were. Everybody talks about asymmetric braking.
Okay.
But you know more than I do. So going into this race, I was surprised to see that Red Bull were as bad as Red Bull was. So, like, if you saw free practice 1, 2, or 3, you saw Max Verstappen who couldn't really control the car. He was really frustrated, right? Yeah. So I guess my first question to you is, what is going on with Red Bull? Like, is it really the braking? One funny thing to note, now Checo is saying, I don't know if you saw the interview with Checo, is like, yeah, this has been my car for the last 8 races. Yep. So it's like, hey, Checo, tell us what's going on.
There's a lot of talk going around about why it seems that indeed it was Red Bull that came up with the asymmetric braking, and that it was only on Max's car. And now since they have removed it, now he's feeling all the issues that Checo was having at the beginning of the season. Well, after the beginning of the season, like from Miami on. But the weird thing is that from Miami on is that you can see that Red Bull goes has a drop in performance. Yep, and then you see that McLaren goes up. So we're not exactly sure when was it that they discovered this thing about the asymmetric braking, which the FIA say that no team was doing it, but
that's a lie.
That seems like a lie. Come on.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
oh no, we were covering just for the 2026 regulations. We didn't find out any team. I don't buy it. And then the sudden drop in performance on Red Bull, it's uncanny.
It's
in this area of regulation of the ground effect, that Red Bull was always 2, 3, 5, 4 steps ahead of the rest.
Absolutely.
And then you see that a team like McLaren goes up and takes the fight right up to them, but then you see Ferrari also, and then Mercedes also. So
I guess, okay, so along those lines, it was interesting to see. One, I will say on my part, it's nice to see Checo Perez, el viejo sabroso, be vindicated, right?
Yep.
Because a lot of people talked a lot of crap, myself included, so I'm including myself in this.
Yeah, we
Checo
do.
sucks, Checo this, Checo that. And now, all of a sudden, Max, because, and we both know a lot of Red Bull fans, right? And last year they would say, you put Max Verstappen in a Haas, you put Max Verstappen in any car, and Max Verstappen will win the race.
Yes.
But Max Verstappen can't win a race in a Red Bull 20, an
right
RB20.
Now. Yep.
So...
And not alone, like, win the race. Right now, he can't even fight for the podium.
Yeah,
if you see the timetable for the quali, Verstappen was closer to Fernando Alonso than to Lewis Hamilton, and Lewis Hamilton
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton was the car right up in front of him, and Alonso was maybe P10. No, Alonso didn't qualify for Q3.
No,
and still Max was closer to Alonso, that was on P11 or P12, than to Hamilton, that was the car right up in front of him. So
okay, yeah. So a lot of things. I'm talking on the show now that it's the asymmetric braking. Do you think any of that has to do with the fact that Adrian Newey is no longer in that team and involved? So if Adrian Newey was still part of Red Bull, would this problem have been solved? Or I think Newey was saying, this car, we can't do anything else to it, so it's so like, is it the braking, air quotes, or is it they don't understand the car?
Actually, the thing is that one of the it has not been confirmed, but one of the reasons that they say that Newey left Red Bull, it was because Pierre Wache and Enrico Balbo, they created this new concept for the RV20, and then when Newey saw the concept, he said, "Oh, you can't go there. You're not gonna have too much room for improvement," and they went ahead and they disregarded his comment, and he didn't like that. And now they're reaping what they saw, something like that.
So,
yeah,
and I thought, oh no, go ahead.
But the asymmetric braking thing, it's a mechanical issue. It's not Adrian Newey. It's a aerodynamicist. He works more with the floor and the
got you.
The way the car creates downforce, so they can like take the high speed corners with more stability. That's his main goal, right? The main goal of his team. But the thing with the asymmetric braking, it has to go with fluids, and so it goes right up to Pierre Wache. He's the one that has a PhD on mechanical fluids. So even though you had Newey on the team right now, you couldn't fix that problem, because Newey said before the beginning of the season that this concept would not work at all, and now they're seeing it.
So I think, Vince, you're about to laugh when I say this.
Yeah.
For anyone who speaks Spanish, Red Bull basically, I'll say it in Spanish, se jodieron. Yep. So
in Spanish, you could say like, se cagaron tres metros fuera de la letrina. Yeah.
Hey, that's a good one. I'm trying not to laugh right now. No, wait.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. All right. So. Two questions. One, is Red Bull having their Mike Elliott moment? So you remember when Mike Elliott introduced the zero pod concept to the
Yeah,
W13,
because
and that was
we thought that was a rocket ship.
exactly okay. So that's one. Is Red Bull having their Mike Elliott moment? And I know Mike Elliott is an amazing aerodynamicist, so I don't know him personally, so it's fine. And number two, what do you think are Max Verstappen's chances of still, is he going to win the World Driver Championship
Oh yeah,
because he'll win another race, or because McLaren's strategy is buns and they're never going to get it together, or it'll be too late by the time
I think it's a mix of both. You could say that this season could turn up to be a repeat of what happened in 2007 and what happened in 2009 with the problems in McLaren with Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. Remember, Kimi was the champion by 1 point.
Yep.
And then on 2009, when Jenson Button and Braun GP had their miracle season, that Button was the champion, but he didn't win a race after the first half of the season. Like, he won 7 races in the first half, and that was it. So
Dang.
It could be a mixture. That the problem is right now, like, Lando is the closest to Max, right?
Absolutely, yes.
But Lando has a problem. Lando does not have the team. Lando does have the car, but he doesn't have the team, and it's a 3-part thing. You must have a driver,
sure,
that can extract the best out of your car.
Sure.
But you also must have a fast car,
which he has.
You must have a team serious enough to make the hard decisions, to take the calls at the time when you need them. And right now, McLaren is not doing that.
They really no, they're not. Yeah.
Because
go ahead. Sorry.
You have Lando, who has never been in this position in his career.
Nope.
He's suddenly up against Max Verstappen, we could arguably say that he's the best driver on the grid. Even though he doesn't have the same, he doesn't have the best car. He's still there. On any given moment, like in Sandberg, he was P2. Yes, Lando was 22 seconds ahead of him, but he was P2 right there.
Still P2, yeah.
So Max is there, and
okay,
you can't beat Verstappen on your own. You need your team, because the problem with Lando right now, and the difference between Lando's situation and when Max went up ahead with Lewis on 2021, it was only Max and Lewis.
Yep.
Right now, Lando has got to fight with Max, which isn't an easy thing. He has to fight Lewis, George, Charles, Carlos, and Oscar, and then his team. So, I'm sorry. I'd like to see another champion, but Verstappen will keep the Drivers' Championship this year, unless Ferrari can go and bring this whole package, and I still see it too far away.
So I agree with you on everything you just said. All right, the team is not there. So for me, I'm trying to say this in a super nice way.
Don't.
I'm not a huge fan of Lando Norris.
Oh, you don't have to say it. I know that.
Because Lando's the type of guy that how to explain it? It's like a backhanded compliment. So he'll say something to you that at face value sounds like, yeah, it's but really he's dissing you, right? And so for me, as a Lewis Hamilton fan, and I make no bones about it, Lewis Hamilton is my favorite driver. Lando has consistently disrespected Lewis.
Oh, right? Yeah,
and Lando has said, you know, of course you're winning. You have the fastest car. You're doing what you're supposed to do. So I say to Lando, hey, you have the fastest car, but you're not winning. But on that team, I don't even think Lando's the best driver on that team. No. I actually think Oscar is a better driver than Lando, because I think that Oscar has the same mentality that a Max Verstappen has, that a Lewis Hamilton has, that an Alonso has, which is like, I'm just here to win races.
Yeah.
So whatever I have to do to, whereas Lando is like, how is it that he's gotten all these poles and he hasn't converted those poles into victory? How is it that no one is surprised when Lando is not leading a race going into turn 1, right? So for me, his teammate did it to him this race. And it was a good overtake, by the way. Oscar, that was beautiful overtake, right? And so for me, I'm like, Lando, you want to be the leader of the team, but you're not even the best driver on your team.
Here's the thing. You don't need to be the best driver to win the championship.
No,
right now,
you're right. Okay.
Lando has shown more consistency during this season. There's a reason why they're driving the same car, but Lando is way ahead on the table. Even though Lando has a DNF and Oscar doesn't.
That's fair. Okay.
So the team, McLaren, should be smart. You can't be Red Bull when you have Piastri and like going into turn 2, turn 3, attacking Lando. Come on, man.
So that's a good segue. So that's a good segue.
And I can't believe I'm
defending Lando.
Yeah, because I'm a Lando hater too.
Yeah. Hey, welcome. We are brothers. Then. So then my question is, that's a good segue. So Vince, what the hell is going on over at McLaren? What are papaya rules, and why isn't the team saying, Oscar, you're great, you're amazing, you're way behind Lando right now, we need to put everything to get Lando this championship? Why are they still letting them race?
At first, like, you remember in Hungary when they did the mix-up and they
that was dumb. Yeah.
Because the situation in Hungary was created by them. They undercut Oscar with Lando to then tell Lando to let Oscar through, because in order to win a championship, you'll need Oscar and the team. But right now, I don't know. When is that going to happen? 2030?
Yeah, never. Right. Oscar's like, nobody's telling me to let him pass, so I'm going to keep racing.
Right? Then there's the problem.
Of course.
What the hell are you doing? I mean,
yeah.
Right back in Hungary, you would think like, oh no, they were just getting Oscar his first win. Verstappen is too far ahead. They're not gonna catch him. But right now you have Lando on pole and Max is on P7 on a track that you know he won't move up the field, so you can cut a lot of points on the championship. So what the hell are you doing? You let them race?
Sounds like, yeah. First of all, it's so obvious to us who doesn't have all the data, telemetry, all the team strategies. We're not in meetings.
No, yeah.
It's obvious to us, but the team is saying like, we're just going to let it. And then what do you think about Zach Brown saying that McLaren's always had a history of 2 number 1 drivers and compared them to Senna and Prost?
That's even worse.
That's dumb.
That's even worse. That's even worse. You cannot compare Oscar Piastri,
obviously,
and Lando Norris, with Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost. They're not.
Listen.
And what the hell are the papaya rules? That's one thing we'd like to know. Like, are there aliens?
I think everybody wants to know.
Are we alone? Are we alone in the universe?
Can I tell you that when I heard papaya rules,
yeah,
I thought it was the exact opposite of what actually transpired. So when I heard papaya rules, I thought that meant, hey, we are going to put everything for Lando to win this race. Oscar, your only job is to back everybody up to give Lando enough time to get a free stop and comfortably win. And then when we found out, because we found out very quickly that it was, oh, you guys can race, just don't crash.
Yeah.
Immediately I was like, are you dumb? Are you guys dumb? Like, what are you?
Lando, we're on papaya rules. You are free to race Oscar.
No.
What?
No.
I mean, what?
And again, I say that.
You know what's the worst thing? This was the first time that Lando was P1 after turn 1.
Oh, that's true. You're right.
He didn't lose the position on the start. And then his teammate, right. But I also blame it on Lando. You do not leave the space for Oscar, because you've seen Oscar do it to you. Come on.
I mean, and then you saw post race. Did you see like the conference, the press conference, and the team picture afterwards?
Yep.
Lando looked like, oh man, I don't even know. Like he looked sick. He looked mad. He looked sad. He looked everything but like, okay, yeah, I'm happy that we got a podium. I'm like, bro, you're pissed. It's all right. Your team did you dirty. So earlier you mentioned that it has to be a team strategy. It has to be the team. I think that's probably one of the biggest issues, and you're absolutely right. I think that Lando needs his team more than anybody, and the reason I'm saying that is because Lando has not yet reached the maturity of a driver who can analyze the race as it's happening and make a decision about which tire he's going, or make a decision about, hey, I'm going to stay out. Well, I'm saying key example, Silverstone. We're not going to go deep into Silverstone, but right, the team at that point, the team should have said, Lando, you're coming in. We're going to put mediums, and you'll win this race. They didn't. They let Lando choose. Lando chose the soft, and he was up against arguably one of the best drivers in terms of tire management. So Lewis Hamilton is a lot of things, right? And so during that race, Lando got passed by Max. Lando couldn't catch up to Lewis, finished third. He was sad, blah, 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 blah. But going to Monza, the question that I had on my mind was like, why are they letting them race? They need to maximize their points. Max can't catch them. He couldn't. You're right, Vince. Like you're right. Like they qualified terribly. Red Bull was stuck behind Mercedes. They couldn't even really get past Mercedes. You saw Russell versus Checo. You saw Hamilton versus Verstappen. They couldn't even pass them on track.
Yeah.
Right. And McLaren didn't capitalize. And then Charles Leclerc came through and did what he did.
Verstappen was celebrating with Charles at the end,
Absolutely.
At the end of the race.
I would be too. Hey.
Well
Choco,
done.
give me
next,
5, bro.
Next one, we go for Carlos.
Because every time, and I think you've said this on your show, every time Lando doesn't win, it's good for Max.
Yes.
Yeah, let's share the love. Everybody can get a win. As long as Lando's not winning,
I'm good.
I have 7. There's only 8 races, and I have 7 of these. We're good. I just got to finish high in the points.
And we're also not 100% sure that Red Bull won't win another race or two between here and the end of the year, because they didn't bring any upgrades to Monza, so they still have a big package coming up for Singapore.
Yeah, but
so maybe it won't work for Singapore, but you got Austin, you got Mexico, which is a great track for Red Bull. You got Brazil,
right.
You got Qatar, and then you got Abu Dhabi. So
okay, so
and Las Vegas. I'm sorry, Las Vegas. I forgot that one.
First of all, quick pin on Las Vegas. I think that this is completely random. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I hate the time of the Las Vegas GP. So I don't know why it's on the West Coast area and they put the Vegas GP at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever it is. And I'm like, why?
Because the thing is, the glamour of the race is to do it under the Vegas lights, right? But the problem is that you can't have that race on a Sunday afternoon
because of football. Okay, fair, but
you can't match NFL, and also you have to think about the viewership in countries like in Asia and Eastern Europe. You're gonna, your numbers are gonna go down. So they have it on Friday, on Saturday. So all the Chinese, Japanese, Indian,
that's fair. Australian,
they can get the race.
So okay, so back to this. Sorry Vince for that.
It's okay. Don't worry.
Tangent. So in your mind, you think Red Bull wins how many races then? 2, maybe 3? For the rest of the year? 3
will be a stretch. I would say at least 2 more races. And nobody knows. There are 3 sprints still.
Oh, that's fair.
So you never know.
Suddenly the sprint races are really important too, huh?
And Brazil always rains a lot. When it's raining, all the advantage you have, it comes to this. And Verstappen, it's one of the best. If it's raining.
Yeah, but you know what? Interlagos is one that I really want Lewis Hamilton to win. that's
Yeah,
that's a second home race for
of course.
Lewis.
Yeah.
So okay, so back to McLaren. I guess the next question I have, to summarize, what you're saying is, unless the team gets their act together, they're toast. And so, simple question:
Yeah.
Do you think the team will get their act together in time, or do you? Nope. You're saying it's too late.
It's too late now.
Okay.
They have
Fair,
Ferrari. They have Ferrari up their asses.
You're right.
We're going to Baku. Ferrari must do well in Baku and on Singapore. Those could be two tracks where McLaren could like edge out Red Bull, but now they have a Ferrari right there, and we don't know what Mercedes is going to bring to those races.
Listen.
So they could be fighting Mercedes too, and it's not easy when you're on a race and on your rear view mirror you see Lewis Hamilton. It's not easy. Yeah, it sounds like fun, but it isn't.
I mean, it's fun for me.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love it. No, okay. So, do you think then to help McLaren's chances at securing anything, should Oscar start letting Lando pass, or is it going to have to be something? Because I feel like Oscar's never going to do it unless the team tells him he has to.
Yeah, the team will have to step in. But what we don't know is, and there are rumors going around of maybe Oscar has a clause on his contract that he could never be the number 2 guy.
Mm-hmm.
If you told me that in April, I would say that was una pendejada.
That's dumb. Yeah, it's some BS. Yeah.
But now you've seen what happened in the last 8-7 races. You start to think about and you see that Mark Webber is his agent.
Mm-hmm.
And all what Webber went through with Vettel on Red Bull.
Yep.
What we've seen on Checo, Bottas, maybe they like to protect a talent that Piastri is. And
I think so, because I think that they have to. And you're right. So it's a good point that you're bringing up about Mark Webber, especially with what he had to go through with Vettel and Red Bull. And I know that Webber, as an Australian himself, is probably saying no, you're not going to do that to Oscar. You're not. No, absolutely not going to do that to Oscar.
No, and also the thing is that Webber, his best friend is Fernando Alonso. So if you have someone that could give you some advice on contracts, it's Alonso, and then Webber. It's a combination that it's not confirmed, but you can't say 100% oh no, that's not going to happen.
Man, Alonso. I almost forgot about Alonso and the fact that he's still racing in Formula One this year. Yes, disrespect. I said what I said. Okay, so Oscar's going to have to be told to let him pass, which is kind of it's not a shame, but I think that Oscar has to understand. Now, maybe Oscar does it this year, but next year I feel like Oscar's tire management is a lot better. Obviously, there's no guarantee that the car will still be the fastest car, but I think for me, in my mind, the team can really sell it to Oscar as, look, this is where you are. You're so far behind Lando. We only have this many races left. We're going to do this, and you're going to be okay with this because next year we can really fight for it. And you prove it on track, and we'll get behind you, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. But you're right. If the team doesn't do it, it's going to be a disaster. Yeah, it's going to be a disaster. All right. So, moving on from McLaren and the disaster class that was McLaren. Ferrari. So, we talked about it earlier. As a Leclerc fan, let's talk a little bit more. Obviously in Italian, Leclerc's name is Il Predestinato, which, if you speak Spanish, that's really easy, the predestined one. But do you feel like this win was a Leclerc masterclass, right? He really took care of those tires. And by the way, I don't think Carlos Sainz gets a lot of credit because it was Sainz who first said, Sainz said, hey, I think we can make the one stint last, right? So do you feel like Ferrari now has a chance to continue winning, or was this really just a magical Monza moment where Leclerc focused and got it done? Or do you feel like they can still win, like you were saying that they could win Baku and Singapore potentially?
I think it actually could be both, because right up to Monza, Ferrari brought 9 upgrades to their car.
Yep.
And it seems like they worked because on Friday FP2 practice, they do the long runs, like race
Mm-hmm.
simulations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ferrari was ahead of McLaren and Mercedes, only second to Red Bull. We know how that went, but
Yep.
I think that it was both. Like, yeah, Sainz does not get a lot of credit for what he did, and but Charles also managed those tires for up to
Absolutely.
30, 32,
That's a lot.
30, 34 laps,
I think so. I don't know, but yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
and yeah, I think that Ferrari will be the favorite for Azerbaijan
Mm-hmm.
and for Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
And if the other teams do not catch up in the 3 week period that we'll have in between, well, actually a month between Singapore
Yeah.
and Austin, maybe Ferrari could be also a contender for the United States Grand Prix.
Ooh. So if
So
Ferrari can put if Ferrari can put some wins together,
yes,
Charles Leclerc.
or
So
or
here's the thing.
Sainz.
Sainz
Remember,
for
Sainz,
sure, but
Sainz got the win in Singapore last year.
oh yeah, that's true. And I was so excited. Everybody was so excited.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy from last season to this season? Last season we were praying for days like these, right?
Yep.
Where everybody's winning races, Red Bull is not dominating. But now we talk about races like, yeah, Lando got pole, like whatever. But if this was like last season, everybody would have been like, oh my God,
Lando got pole.
yeah. Okay, so you know what's crazy to me I watched the race and I replayed the end of the race and changed the broadcast language to Italian just to see what was happening.
You got Skype?
Charles, yes. Well, I have a VPN that can make me, yeah. And so my thing that was astonishing to me is how much, and I knew this, like how much people love Charles Leclerc, right? And when you saw Charles Leclerc, with the national anthem, right, Fratelli d'Italia, all of that, it looked like, like whenever they have like a new pope, like the El Papa, and like he goes out into the crowd, and that's literally what it felt like to me. Like everybody was just.
I got that T-shirt. If you want, I can show it to you.
No, I believe you.
I got that. I had it on Sunday.
And so for me, it was really exciting. But I think what it did to me was showcase a talent that we know that Charles Leclerc has, which then makes me think next year. And I know a lot of people, it's easy to say on paper, the car obviously has to be good. But next year, that team is probably going to be the best duo on there. Obviously, I feel like Leclerc is going to have the home team advantage based that, but you don't agree.
I wouldn't say that Ferrari will probably have the best duo on the grid. They definitely will have.
Oh, I was like, what?
No, it's not probably. It's you got Lewis
like
Hamilton.
They will.
You got Lewis Hamilton, and then you got Charles Leclerc driving a Ferrari. If Ferrari somehow get a good car, not the best, a decent car.
Yeah.
In 2025, we will have a season. It doesn't matter who will be on top. When you got a car that can get the best out of Hamilton and Leclerc, oh man.
And those two have similar driving styles. I just want you to know right now, and this is going to be on the internet. You see that Mercedes logo right here. Next year it's just going to be red. So I'm 100% like Medrano. Like I'm slowly buying all the Ferrari.
Joining the dark side.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Hamilton.
Listen,
I'm Hamilton first, and then everybody.
I'm a Red Bull fan, but I have more Ferrari caps than Red Bull. And my wife is like, "You're not a Red Bull fan." I'm like, "Yes, but their caps are prettier."
That's facts. And so, last thing on Ferrari. It's not talked about a lot, but it's gonna seem like a random tangent. But just stay with me for a second. What do you think about the job that Freddie Vasseur is doing over at Ferrari and how he's managing that team? Because for once, we always used to make joke about Ferrari's strategy.
Yeah.
But this year, it's not Ferrari's strategy. You can look at McLaren for messing up strategies. But what do you feel the job that he's doing this year and what part that plays in how the team is doing this year?
Still, I see some improvement. You know, we're not in the Binotto era, but
Yo, Charles
when
Leclerc hates Binotto,
when
doesn't he?
you come on, man, when you see the mistakes that were made in Canada
Yep.
and on Silverstone
Mm,
with Leclerc,
mm.
you know, like the confidence on the team, it's not. And then you see the race on Sunday. It was Sainz's idea. It wasn't the
Absolutely.
strategy
Yeah,
team,
okay. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
and
That's
and
fair.
it sucks because he's not paid to do that. So like I don't rate a driver that cannot read the race and say I need these tires because that's not their job. That's why you have a bunch of
Engineers.
people on the garage getting a lot of money, but then you expect the driver to do the strategy too. While they're driving a 300 miles an hour car through a circuit full of corners with other 19 drivers around, it's not a fair thing to ask for. Like I'm
Mm.
okay. I mean, I believe that Sainz has done a good job. Um, it's amazing that Sainz and Russell does that too sometimes.
Yeah, Russell does that.
Hamilton did it on Silverstone,
Mm-hmm.
but
I,
it's not the
yeah.
driver's job to determine when to go in because the driver is only on the road, but the team has a lot of computers, a lot of information, right up in the brick of time, like in real time.
All right. So essentially, what you're saying is Carlos Sainz, amazing job, but that was Ferrari's responsibility to manage that race. The driver's responsibility is to race, essentially. And so you feel like the strategy department at Ferrari still needs to improve.
Yep, they need to
Okay.
fire some people there.
Uh, all right.
Yeah, because that's the problem with Ferrari. They're like, oh no, we're a family. We're gonna just promote somebody, but then you're
Nah.
promoting some idiot who does the bad job for 3 seasons, and then you're gonna say, "Oh, we're Ferrari, we're a family." Then you're gonna promote the idiot that was the assistant to that idiot, and it's like a loop.
So what I think I'm hoping is that next year Lewis Hamilton has the Schumacher effect, right? So you think about when Schumacher came to the team and he got
That's what.
everybody.
Yep, that's what
Yeah.
Ferrari needs. A
Yep.
champion to tell them, that's not the way you do that.
You gotta let that idiot go. Bye.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
I
we're a
thank you
family.
thank you for your effort, but you're the cousin
Sometimes,
we don't. You're the cousin we
hey,
don't like.
sometimes the people who love you tell you the hardest things
The
that you
hardest.
need to hear, and I understand. All right, so it's a good segue to shouts out Ferrari. Great job. I'm super happy. And by the way, Vince, the thing that I want to say is I know mathematically it's still possible, but I actually want Ferrari to win. The drivers. I know it's basically impossible for Charles Leclerc to win the World Driver Championship, but how amazing would that be if Charles Leclerc had his Kimi Raikkonen moment, right? Where Max and Lando are fighting and Leclerc came from nowhere and was like,
Well,
"Oh, okay. Thank you."
Netflix will be the first
Oh,
to be happy
absolutely.
about it.
Yes. At me because neither Verstappen or Lando won.
You're
Full
good.
stop.
Yeah.
Um
Also,
so
Italy is gonna sink into the Mediterranean
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
because
You
even though Leclerc he's not Italian,
he might as well be, yeah.
but he's their guy. He's their Predestinato. When you see him
Yep.
grab the mic and he starts speaking Italian, you feel it. You feel like a spaghetti and meatball in your mouth.
Shut down. Stop. Dog. Spaghetti. Because what does he say? Ciao ragazzi. Siete.
Ragazzi, yeah, yeah. I don't know much Italian, but I know he
Hey,
has. Yeah.
you know, I actually do. This is another random thing. So I studied in Italy for a year. So I actually know the national anthem and I know how big Ferrari is. You know what's crazy? Italian is so close to Spanish that for the first 6 months I lived in Italy, no one was telling me that I was speaking terrible Italian because I was just saying like Spanish words with an Italian accent.
Accento.
Yeah. I'll be like, yo tengo, como se dice, hambre. And they're like, so after
Mangiare.
after the 6 month mark was when they were finally like, hey, bro, your Italian sucks. You need to practice. So it'll be good to see what happens next year. And again, before I move on, shouts out Carlos Sainz. Great strategy. I think he doesn't get a lot of credit. In general, Carlos Sainz is great. I think he's going to be great at Williams. Also interesting that at Williams is going. I think he will do well at Williams. Look at James Vaught is a killer, by the way. He's an assassin.
It's Williams.
I know.
They made their car using an Excel spreadsheet.
Maybe they got to, you know what? You're right. Sorry, I was trying to be positive for Carlos Sainz.
No, no, don't.
All right, okay.
Don't sell me hopes and dreams.
All right, you're right.
Tell me the truth.
Sorry. So moving on, Mercedes. So right off the bat, did they make a mistake bringing? So we talked about Williams, and that's why I'm bringing it up. Did they make a mistake bringing Andrea Kimi Antonelli onto that team without more experience?
No.
Why?
Because why would you need that experience? And like some people are comparing Kimi's situation with George's situation when he won F2, but George had to go to Williams because Mercedes had Bottas and Hamilton.
Yep.
Right now, Mercedes has a spot available, but there's not a driver that you could say, "Oh, let's put him." Because people say, "Oh, let's go." Why didn't they sign Sainz?
That's true. No, that's true.
But Red Bull didn't sign Sainz either.
Well, so the Red Bull situation makes more sense, as you know. And again, for everybody watching, if you speak Spanish, you really need to be watching Entrando Pits. I said what I said, but you've talked about this before, so it actually makes sense. Sainz's dad and Verstappen's dad do not get along.
Not at all.
That team is already in shambles because Christian Horner is doing whatever he's going to do, right? I think that Mr. Wolf, I call him Mr. Wolf. Here's why I call him Mr. Wolf. Vince, you're the only one who understands why I don't use his first name.
Oh yeah,
Spanish.
It's you know. Tell you one anecdote. I'm in a sports WhatsApp group, right?
Mm-hmm,
so the owner of the group is a very religious person.
Oh no.
So one day we're talking about F1, and I'm talking. Well, I'm chatting with someone that knows F1.
Of course.
And I write on WhatsApp, por eso es que Toto se la pasa llorando. No, perdón, no fue así. It was like, por eso esa es la lloradera de Toto. That guy gave me
I bet he did.
Speech about Vince. You cannot do this. You cannot talk that way.
Man.
There's a lot of Christian people. And I'm like, yo, whoa.
Oh, time out, boss. Hold on.
Toto Wolff, Austrian, CEO of Mercedes AMG F1.
Listen.
Read the whole conversation. Context.
Listen. I'm not going to explain to everybody watching this show what that means, but just go to Urban Dictionary and look up what that means in Dominican Spanish. All right.
Yep.
So what I was going to say is that Mr. Wolf, Airwolf, Torger Wolf I think he lives in fear of missing out on another Max Verstappen. Right. Because that's what he talks about. His biggest regret is not signing a young Max Verstappen and letting a young Max Verstappen go to Red Bull, Toro Rosso, all of that, right? But so I actually happen to agree with you about bringing Kimi in. I don't think it was a terrible idea. I think he would be wasted in F2. Like, why have him there for another season where you can call him up and develop the talent? Plus, in FP1, you saw that first lap. That first lap was crazy. The second lap before he crashed was also crazy. All that lets me know is that kid is not scared.
Thank you. When he had the crash, his timing, he was on time.
It was crazy.
To beat Lewis's time.
He was.
And people are talking about that, how he crashed the car in FP1. And I'm like, dude, if they did not want him to push that car, they would have told him not to. No, they would send him out on hard tires. On mediums.
Actually, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, no, you're right. They sent him on soft and he did quali laps. So for me, For me, I agreed with the decision. I think it's a natural talent that you can't teach that type of talent. So Verstappen has it, Alonso had it in his day, Schumacher, Hamilton, obviously, right?
Leclerc,
And so
Leclerc,
yeah, Leclerc too, yeah, absolutely. And so for me, it's a situation where like he crashed a car, absolutely, but more than anything, what I saw is a kid who's not scared.
not at all,
He
not
said,
at all.
and he crashed, and guess what? Later on in the day, he was qualifying for F2. So
And
whatever.
you see, the thing about they're saying like, oh, he needs more experience, but they say that Berman is
Uh-uh.
it's ready for F1. But when you go to F2 and you see the season, Kimi is beating Oliver like for 40 points.
So for me, what cemented the so I'll be honest with you. I was on the fence with Kimmy because when I'm seeing him in F2, and then I realized, okay, maybe the car's not good. What sealed it for me with Kimmy, do you remember? I know you actually know what I'm going to talk about. In Belgium,
Yeah,
Kimmy did that pass on El Rouge, and I was like, okay, this
on
kid,
on Colapinto,
yep. And
he
that
made
to
the
me
move.
was nuts. In the wet, I was like, okay, yeah, this kid. So for me, I felt so on the other side though. On the other side, agree or disagree. For me, George Russell better. He's in a contract year next year,
Yeah,
and for me, I don't think if Wolf can get Max Verstappen, George is gone.
yep.
Because
Oh,
what has George has been in F1 since 2019,
yeah,
and George still has issues with tire management. George still has issue like makes silly mistakes when you look at Singapore last year. You look at what was it, Australia this
Australia,
year, right? And I forget there was like one more race where it was like, what? Like, why
and
did
and
you?
and both of those races were Carlos Sainz's wins.
Oh yeah, that's true. Wow, yes, that's actually true. Wow.
It's quite funny, but yeah. But
And so, no, go ahead.
I think that the biggest loser of all this talk about Verstappen and Mercedes and then Kimi, it's you haven't seen Toto. I mean, Mr. Wolf. You haven't seen Mr. Wolf talk about George.
No,
We only
not at
know
all.
that he has a contract for this year, and
Yep,
there's an option for 25, but
yep.
they haven't talked about 26. And then with the problems that you're seeing at Red Bull,
You
it
know,
might
Max
be
is
a possibility that Max could go to Mercedes.
either Mercedes or Aston Martin. Since
I don't see
we,
him on Aston
you don't
Martin.
think it? Well, okay.
Aston Martin is not a serious project. You cannot call yourself a serious project when you have Lance Stroll as your driver,
Vince, you know what?
even
You know
though
what
he's
I'm
the
gonna
owner.
listen. Lance Stroll's biggest deficiency and biggest problem is that his dad loves him so much that he
He
bought
bought
a
it
team. He
for
bought a
him.
team for him.
Yeah.
That's a father right there. My
Oh
dad
no,
doesn't
I
have
know.
that kind of money. Bought him a team. So for me, I got to think that as George Russell right now, if he's not already doing it, has to start looking for another team because Torger is looking literally. Max, come join this team. Joss, let's bring Max. If you want to bring Helmut Marko, well, he's talking about all these people he would rather have
Just
than
to have
George
Max.
Russell, right? So
Yeah.
he'd rather have Max and Kimmy. So for me, he hasn't talked about George as the leader of the team.
You know, some people have told me about oh, 25 is going to be a shootout year between George and Kimi, and I'm like,
I
nah.
think Kimmy's gonna eat him up.
No, no. Even though George well, the thing is, George is supposed to beat him.
He's supposed to, but
He's
Alonso was
supposed to.
supposed to be Hamilton too. So
Yeah, but again, it's not the same F1 as in those years. But what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't matter if Kimi wins or George wins. Kimi will be there in 2026.
100%, 100%.
George
Yes.
depends
Maybe not
100%
on
on what
Max.
Verstappen wants, and that sucks.
So
I mean,
okay.
from George's point of view.
So here's the thing with George. He's another one that does sort of this thing. They developed a car, and early on in the year, do you remember when George was like, the car wasn't doing well. The W15 was not doing well, and they said, we designed this car with Lewis Hamilton's specifications. the underlying statement being this car sucks, but guess what? This is Lewis's fault, right? For me, and again, you've said it. A lot of people I follow and watch said it. It feels like George is more concerned in beating Lewis Hamilton than actually winning for the team. And up to this point, George has been compared to Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time, 8-time World Driver Championship, arguably the greatest of all time in terms of statistics, right? Yeah. And it makes sense because, like, wow, look at his teammate. He's out qualifying him, all of this stuff. But next year, with Hamilton gone, and it's just Kimi, what are they going to say when George can't out-qualify Kimi? Or what are they going to say when Kimi's... Because Kimi, he's being compared to George, but now the tables have turned on George. You understand what I'm saying? George is great now because they're comparing George to the talent that is Lewis Hamilton. And they're saying, wow, he's great compared to Lewis. It's always compared to Lewis Hamilton. So what's going to happen next year if Kimi, like, destroys it? Yeah, see?
Well, that would be a career killer.
I know.
Because, we could argue that Alonso got back from being beaten by Lewis, but after that, he never won anything. And yeah, I know he didn't have the car, blah, 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 all that stuff, but still, he didn't win.
He didn't. So that's all I'm going to say.
On 2010, he didn't overtake Petrov. So that's why Vettel got the title. So he had the chance. They're saying, oh, Alonso took that car to the final round. No, the car was there. There's the thing that I've learned through many, many, many years watching F1. I was kidding about the many, many years. But
I was like, go, go. Let's go.
No, but every time you talk about Fernando Alonso, everybody is speaking about how he extracts more than what the car can do. That's not that's not true. You cannot go past what the car can do. You have the one example of that. It's his second stint with McLaren after he got out of Ferrari. That car sucked.
Yeah, it was
and
bad.
He sucked in it.
Absolutely, so much so that he retired.
Exactly. And now he's in Aston Martin, and
that
one is also sucking.
Yeah. So for me, it's a situation where I know it's a tangent. Alonso, honestly, all due respect, I think it is time for him to go ahead and hang it up.
Going back to George, Alonso never got over that Hamilton thing, but at least Alonso was a champion already.
Absolutely.
He was a 2-time champion.
Absolutely.
George has not done that.
If
Kimi gets into Mercedes,
I think it's going to happen.
And beats him, oh my God.
He's going to beat him. I'm just telling you, what I've seen from Kimi, I've never seen from George. Not to mention that, you know what the worst part about that is, to be completely honest? I know Kimi Antonelli is 18 years old. He looks like he's 12. I think that actually would be like the most embarrassing. It's like, who's this kid? Like, you look over and you could barely see his head looking over this. You're like, what the? So, yeah. So again, just to wrap it up, I think we're agreeing it was smart of Mercedes to see what's going on. It'll be interesting because I think next time Kimi gets into a car was Mexico, right?
I think
Austin or Mexico for FP1, right? So I'm excited. I may not cheer heartily for Mercedes next year, but I'm 100%. I like Kimi. I like what I'm seeing from Kimi. He's a good generational talent, so we'll see. All right, Vince, we have come to the end of the show, and one thing that we like to do on this show is talk about our best and worst performance. For everybody watching, this is actually a momentous occasion for me because this is probably the first guest that I've had who understands exactly. I don't need to explain to Vince what's going to happen. So Vince, can you please tell me first, who is, for the Italian Grand Prix, who is your pariguayo of the race?
Lando Norris.
Okay, Lando Norris. Why?
Because he cannot leave that space for Oscar Piastri on the same car that you're driving, that is a rocket ship, and he won't leave that space open. So, pariguayazo.
All right, hey,
Yeah.
my pariguayo is two. Still McLaren. It's actually it's just one. No, two. Andrea Stella and Zach Brown for letting
Okay.
papaya rules go. All right.
We still
Can
don't
you?
know what papaya rules are.
We don't, but they might as well change it to pariguayo rules. So pariguayo for me is gonna be the bosses of McLaren.
Yep.
Okay, so who is your matatan of the race?
Charles Leclerc.
Obviously, and go ahead.
He
Tell us what. Go ahead.
he got the win, a win that he was not supposed to get at
Absolutely,
Ferrari's home race.
absolutely. You know what?
He, I mean,
It,
I
no, I
cannot
get it.
express. I can't express it. Like you need to see the pictures of the video, the people on the podium. It's a beautiful thing when Ferrari wins, but it's
More so when it's in Monza.
yep.
And you know what? I'll leave it there because Charles Leclerc is also my matatan, and it was pretty amazing to see him win his second home race. He got Monaco, he got Monza, and if he never wins any races the rest of the year, I'm actually real happy with what happened this year.
I'm paid for the year, but we must do also a special shout out to Franco Colapinto.
Oh yeah, that's true. Go ahead, talk about Colapinto.
Colapinto should be a Matatan 2.0
Fair.
because the way he handles with the female reporters.
This guy, I knew you were going to talk about that.
Hey,
yeah,
I'm Dominican.
yeah. He is not shy. I will say Colapinto.
That kid is fearless.
What I did like was that who was it? He called Lobato out and said, "Hey, let Lobato know I am not Italio Argentino. I am Argentine. That's what the passport says. Full stop." No, but it's definitely an upgrade from Logan Sargent. And I think a common misconception that people have is that because Logan Sargent is American, that a lot of Americans would cheer for Logan. No, we were so happy. Finally, put him out of his misery. Let him go to IndyCar. Adios.
It sucks. And you know the worst thing is that it's not like he's gonna make it on Indy either.
Nah,
there are a lot of good drivers on Indy.
There definitely are. There definitely are.
I mean,
so,
Alex Palou, Joseph
Pato
Newgarden, Pato. Yeah.
And so, okay, so Matatan 2.0 Colapinto, I co-signed that. All right, so Vince, where can people find you on the internet? Talk a little bit about the podcast and everything that's going on with Entrando Pits.
Okay. Well, we're on YouTube. I don't know how to translate it on English. It's like Into the Pits would be.
Yeah.
Into the Pits.
Yeah, or Entrando a Pits, literally.
Entrando a Pits, like Entrando a Pits, and on YouTube. We're also on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I write up for ESPN, but it's mostly on Spanish, and you will not be able to find me under Vince Duran, so you would find it under my legal name, which
his
I hate.
Government name. Yeah,
exactly.
Rowdy, is it Rowdy?
Rowdy
yeah,
Duran. Rowdy Duran. Yeah.
Okay.
But and hopefully you will find me here more.
Yeah.
More
no. Absolutely.
In
yes.
Mono Plaza, right?
Yes, sir.
This is my first. This is my first time podcasting in English.
Oh, listen, you did an amazing job. I'm not surprised though.
Really?
So no, I'm not surprised at all. Believe it or not, I'm not. Just because when we text back and forth, the idioms that you use is something that a native English speaker would say. So,
well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, shouts out. So yes, everybody, for all my viewers who do speak Spanish, highly recommend for you to check out Entrando Pits. Literally one of my favorite podcasts. I actually have an episode out right now. I'm not gonna post a link on mine, but yes, I'll post I'll post Vince's username and you can find it. But great group of people. Shouts out to Medrano, Yeori, Mechanica Hats, aka and of course Sandra and Anna. It's a great crew over there. Highly recommend it. But yeah, that's it. All right, as always, please comment, like, subscribe, tell your mommies, your papis, your tios, your tias, abuelos for the Monoplaza F1 podcast. My name is Emi Vitre. This was Vince Duran. Peace.